Hello dear viewers, I'd like to welcome you to Sotnik-TV. We have an unusual guest today, Yury Tabakh, a retired US Navy first-rank captain. Hello Yury. Hello. Today's topic is a possible military confrontation between Russia and NATO in the Baltic Sea. And the potential capabilities of Moscow to pose a threat to Northern Atlantic Alliance in that region. So here's my first question for Yury. NATO representatives, as well as Russian experts, have been declaring recently that Russia is likely to develop plans for a possible military conflict with NATO in the Baltic region. Yury, please tell us, is the Russian Navy really able to threaten NATO in sea operations in the Baltic region? You mean the Baltic Basin, of course. Well, there's always the possibility to threaten your adversary by drawing a red line, as seen with Muammar Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein, Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un. I can keep going all day. Those individuals were always threatening the world community, don't forget Fidel Castro and the rest of them. Speaking of the real naval capabilities, there's always a chance of creating chaos or possible catastrophe by any military force. Armies which are unable to wage modern surgical warfare with precision techniques, which in turn will cause mass destruction, such as troops being unable to reduce collateral damage or harming civilians and destroying infrastructure. The modern Russia army behaves as if it were still in World War II. It films lots of World War II movies and still considers such strategies effective. That was demonstrated during the war in Georgia in 2008, as well as in the Ukraine when a part of its territory was invaded in 2014. In those so-called Brotherhood countries, they kept fighting with World War II-era weapons, such as tanks, cannons and bombs, while those are totally obsolete now. The Baltic Sea is a rather big gulf, more than it is a sea of any kind, which is surrounded by NATO countries. The Russian fleet has poor access to this area of operation, as it either has to approach from a small gulf located in its territory, or to move from Kaliningrad that can only be reached through the Baltic states, or Poland, but not directly. So it is a major concern for Russia to be able to wage any expedition to that region. They conduct recurrent drills and perform upgrades to the fleet there. But by no means it's enough to compete with NATO naval resources or ground forces located in that basin. I'm not talking about Finland, yet Finland is no friend of Russia, that rather lives in constant paranoia caused by the USSR and later by Russia. That country always braces itself. Now regarding those plans by Russia you've mentioned, that is correct. Every headquarter always needs to develop all kinds of scenarios of attack and defense. There are lots of such scenarios and we can't even count all of them. But once you have real headquarters and real troops, you need to make numerous plans. Yeah, thanks to President Trump, who is criticized by many as well as by Alexander Sotnik, as far as I know, NATO got enhanced a lot. That was due to him as well to Vladimir Putin, who has turned the green light on, saying, now that is your enemy, and you need to arm yourselves to study and to get ready. While Trump smacked those NATO members who had decided not to pay their fees nor participate in allied operations and drills. They didn't want to pay, hoping to make it by means of American budget and the blood of the US troops. But Trump said that would never happen. So all those countries around the Baltic and the Black Seas started mending their ships, planes and tanks, contributing their shares to NATO. So today's NATO is a quite well-funded entity. Every time we conduct drills in the Baltic Basin and the rest of the regions, the aim is to resist Russian invasion. As of today, there are no NATO nations, as well as the rest of the countries, such as Finland, Ukraine or Georgia, that still require approval of Russia being the aggressor. Hello, I welcome everyone watching Sotnik-TV this moment. Let me state that Kremlin mafia, which I can never call a government, spins the repression wheel in Russia of their 21st century. Criminal proceedings are fabricated under the guise of war on drugs, fighting against terrorism and extremism. The number of such proceedings grows as we see some serious oppression of citizens and the civil society that has already been stomped into dust. Soon that will outbeat the repressions by Stalin. What should we prepare for and how to oppose that dehumanized power machine? Let's discuss that with Dmitry Demushkin, who got out of Putin's prison not that long ago. Hello, Dmitry. Hello, Alexander. Here's my question. Federal protective agents will soon be granted right to use force against citizens without a warning. Federal security agents may already shoot on sight even women, as well as Russian guard and police officers. And now it's Federal Protective Service. Such an increase of security services powers. What do you think that will result into? That is a totally natural process we've been discussing for many years now. When a certain group of people usurps the entire power, their primary mission is to protect their authority, as well as their assets. When you have everything captured from the chair of the president down to the last city hall, but still realize to be losing on the information field, even though you control all the federal TV channels, all the major newspapers and internet outlets, you run that all. But still, year by year, you keep losing in people's minds. Where does that leave you? The only hope for you now is the security services. 2.5 million security agents in modern Russia are in fact busy protecting that so-called permanence. That is the kind of permanence that requires that many people protecting. It's understood that they will keep spinning the repression wheel. But what should the citizens do? Those citizens live their lives not touching anyone. They agreed to stay out of everything, hoping they won't be affected. But as far as I see, everyone will get affected sooner or later. And when the day comes, what needs to be done? So, to put it indelicately, you had been out of that, and then they came after you. What should you do? You're absolutely right saying that has affected everyone. Even if they haven't come after, you are still affected by the current situation. Your rights and your freedoms are really restricted now. Yet everyone is at risk, of course. And when they come for you, there's little you can do as a citizen. You only hope, then, is some public support and attention. But unless you are some figure arrested during a political rally and supported by the progressive community, unless you are some journalist, you are in a big trouble. Of course, the criminal trials were not fair back in 1937, but many were acquitted back then. while no one is today. Once arrested, with criminal proceedings initiated against you nowadays, the only question is what kind of penalties is to be imposed. You may rat on others. You may testify against yourself. You may confess in all that bullcrap they have made up, if you haven't done anything, of course. And once you plead not guilty, they may torture you. What's going on with people is not even the real problem. The real problem is that the majority of our people doesn't believe in fairness of today's investigations. That is the worst thing for them. Any person who gets there able to plead not guilty up to the end will convince people more than the state that prosecutes him. What if they deserve everything that has happened to them? Saying, that doesn't affect me, I stay out of politics and they can do without me. They allowed all that crap inside the country. They gave out the politics as well as the entire state to those dirty. And now they're shaking, numbed with fear. What if they deserve that, as hell's doors are locked on the inside? In times of despair, I look at those people thinking that they already live in the place they deserve. They have built that so-called order themselves. A lot of them were calling for permanence, tired of chaos in 90s. So here they go, the permanence has come. Yet the most permanent place, as of today, is detention facility. Everything is really steady there. When they advocate for the Soviet past and legacy, I always reply to that, guys, the USSR version 2 you really dream about today is located in Vladimirskaya region detention camp. Not only there, but that was where I saw that personally. And when they ask about the most important thing taken away from us, I name freedom. Even obeying law, not killing, not robbing, nor raping. You now live in constant fear of them coming at your place, searching it, putting you in handcuffs, and taking you to jail for any term. That was Dmitry Demushkin. A madness is on amid the looming disaster of the coronavirus. And what we observe in Russia is not even a fiddling, but rather some growing lunacy while Rome burns. More of that story is revealed in our today's main episode of the Wednesday News, coming up next. The original Channel 1 Russia series is on called 20 Questions to Vladimir Putin that is dedicated to him trying to recruit you. Those sessions by state's head recruiter aim to convince their dopey audience to accept his main point: Putin stays forever, so get over it, peasants. That Kremlin's Reaper assures Russians there's nothing wrong about battering people with truncheons. Indeed, our Russian guardians are tender and adoring, while those protesters are in fact raving and bloodthirsty. Today they're throwing plastic cups, but isn't that one step away from throwing grenades? Junta rules Russia since 1999, when FSB began blowing on citizens. That series of explosions was only ended when local cops caught special agents mining in an apartment building in the city of Ryazan. Those in Kremlin have been more sophisticated since then, so when Putin needs to tighten the screws once again, they set up terrorist attacks at Nordost or in Beslan, or even invade Crimea. The special operation in progress is a big risk, as that will turn creepy modern Russia into some freaky monster. Such names as Putalini, Putler and Putinesco will get left behind, as no one is now able to compete against that new Putin. He is turning some unique beast, and fighting him with any common means will bring no use. He is akin to a virus spread across, or a gas pumped pumped all over the planet by his agents. Fascists used to pump that into the gas chambers once. That monster swollen with oil money has mastered information technology and uses that as the main ingredient to poison the mankind. There's no place on earth to go to without meeting a fan of Vladimir Putin. His another switch is money. For, say, Alain Juliet, the former intelligence head in France, is to host a show about geopolitics on local Russia Today branch. Putin's cat house is supplemented with fresh political meat, but that couldn't operate if not for a huge financial investments. That is filled with political mastodons such as Gerhard Schroeder or Nicolas Sarkozy, as well as with those new kids. Together they spin that generator of Putinism worldwide, ignoring that smell with Kremlin's host turning brown. Russian opposition has been disassembled and literally stomped by security officers' boots. What Putin is doing now is finishing those lone wolves, fabricating criminal cases against net or new greatness organizations, as well as the rest of the extremists on the internet. Putin's plans can only be messed up by something truly global and unpredictable, something that does not depend on finances nor on propaganda approach. And such options seem to have just appeared in the form of coronavirus, that breaks down resource prices and stocks, that stops factories and closes borders. Meanwhile, there's no satisfactory cure for that so far. Russia is not prepared for that coronavirus outbreak at all, and such outbreak is only a matter of time. Even today, Russian online drug stores are out of simple face masks. The virus is lethal for elders and those with poor immune system, while the citizens of Russia are mostly old and poor. Quite a lot of them has HIV, and it looks like the Grim Reaper simply had no time for visiting that territory yet to harvest big. There's almost no medical care in Russia, and all the reports they provide are fake. No coronavirus testing is performed back there. So where would any officially sick come from? And once start dying, they will be diagnosed anything up to some common cold, just to cover the truth. It seems strange, but once a virus gets much weaker from another one, the mankind benefits. And such disease making those Putin's fans roar inside their cave, demolishing it on the inside, could turn into some modern canon story of a guilty savage who punished himself. Of course, unless the USA comes up with anything to stop that plague from China, saving that highly spiritual empire by accident.